Welcome to Rosh Hashana, before Rosh Hashana, part 4. We are up to Perek Aleph, chapter 1, Mishna Vav, the 6th Mishna. Mishna continues to discuss the witnesses coming to the court, to the Sanhedrin, to testify that they saw the new moon in order to establish when Rosh Chodesh, the new month, is. So the Mishnah tells us a story. There was a story where more than 40 pairs of witnesses were on their way to the Sanhedrin, to the court, to testify that they'd seen the new moon. Some commentaries say this took place on Shabbos. Obviously the moon was very clear, and they all managed to see the new moon. The Ikvan Rabbi Akiva belud, and Rabbi Akiva stopped them in Lud and says, there's no need for you to go any further. Obviously there's going to be lots of people that have seen the moon. There's no need for you to continue, no need for you to break Shabbos. Just stop right here. Sholach loy Rabban Gamliel. So Rabban Gamliel sent a message to Rabbi Akiva that what you did perhaps was not so appropriate. If you're going to stop the people who are enthusiastic to come and share their testimony that they've seen the new moon, you will cause them to stumble and do the wrong thing in the future. If they get stopped now, then next month when someone sees the new moon, they will say, well, we got stopped last month, so I'm not going to even bother going, and therefore that might prevent people from coming to the Sanhedrin to testify that they saw the new moon. And as we can see from learning these Mishnayos, that the mitzvah of sanctifying Rosh Chodesh is so important that the Sanhedrin has to try and get it as accurate as possible and encourage people to do it in the proper way, and therefore we want to encourage witnesses to come, and therefore he said Rabbi Akiva shouldn't actually have stopped them in Lud. Continues the Mishnah, Mishnah Zayin, the 7th Mishnah. A father and his son who saw the new moon, they spotted the cycle of the new moon as it began. Yelchu, they should also go to the court. Now it's going to be a problem, because according to this opinion, we know generally relatives cannot be witnesses. Normally when you need two witnesses for something, two relatives cannot join together to form testimony. Says the Mishnah, Lo shemitztarfen zeh mzeh. Not that they'll be able to join with each other and give testimony for the new moon. But because in the process of questioning in the Beis Din, one of them might stumble and say the wrong thing and therefore become invalidated, you'll still have the second one, yitztaref hasheni im acher. At least the second one will be able to join with another individual who saw the moon, and that will be able to create the opportunity for valid testimony. Rabbi Shimon maintains, Rabbi Shimon says that a father and his son and all relatives are actually kosher witnesses when it comes to the testimony of the new moon. And he has a very interesting source for this, because we have a tradition that the first witnesses to establish the very first Rosh Chodesh of Rosh Chodesh Nisan was Moshe and Aaron, two brothers. And therefore he says that for this purposes, relatives actually are acceptable. Omar Rabbi Yossi, so Rabbi Yossi tells us, Maisa b'Tuvia Haroifa, there was a story with the doctor Tuvia, a person called Tuvia Haroifa. Shero asa chodesh b'Yerushalayim, he saw the new moon in Yerushalayim, hu ubenoi, him and his son, v'avdoi meshuchra, and his slave, who was a freed slave. Now, a freed slave has really the din of a proper Jew. It just doesn't have good yichus, it doesn't have good lineage, but really is a proper valid witness, or should be. Nevertheless, the Mishnah says when it came to the Kohanim, the group of Kohanim in the Beis Din, the Kiblu HaKohanim Oisoi ve'Esbenoi, the Kohanim accepted the testimony of him and his son, uposlu es avdoi, but they invalidated his slave. Ukshabol ifnei Beis Din, when they came to the actual court, Kiblu Oisoi ve'Esavdoi, they actually accepted him and his slave. The Kohanim invalidated the slave because they thought the slave wasn't a valid witness. But the court said, no, the slave is a valid witness because the slave has been freed and therefore is a valid witness. But they invalidated his son because his son was a relative. And they maintain that the relatives are not valid for the testimony of Kiddush HaChodesh. Just want to mention, being in the month of Elul, the Shulchan Aruch brings down that Elul is a good time to check one's tefillin and mezuzahs, particularly if you haven't done so for a while. It's a good time to have them checked. and to make sure that we have properly kosher tefillin and mezuzahs. Have a good day. Shana